In the autumn of 1880, a young Arthur Hacker arrived in Paris with his artistic ambitions tucked firmly under his arm. At 22 years of age, having already completed his studies at London's Royal Academy schools, Hacker made the decisive choice to continue his artistic education at Léon Bonnat's prestigious atelier in Paris. I came to Paris not to abandon what I had learned in London, but to expand my artistic vocabulary, Hacker reportedly told a fellow English student upon his arrival. Bonnat's reputation for disciplined draftsmanship and his modern approach to traditional subjects is precisely what I believe will strengthen my own hand. Bonnat's studio was renowned throughout Europe as a rigorous training ground for serious artists. The French master was celebrated for his powerful portraits and religious paintings that combined academic precision with a distinctly modern sensitivity to light and psychological depth. For Hacker, the choice was deliberate and calculated. In London, we were taught to respect tradition above all, Hacker wrote in a letter home. But Léon Bonnat teaches us to respect ourselves as artists first. He demands technical perfection while encouraging individual expression, an approach I find liberating and essential for the modern painter. Paris in the early 1880s was the undisputed centre of the art world. While the Impressionists were challenging conventions, the academic tradition remained strong, and Monsieur Léon's studio represented a middle path, rigorous training with an openness to contemporary influences. For Hacker, who had shown early talent but was still searching for his artistic voice, this balance proved irresistible. His decision to study with Bonnat was also practical. The French master had trained many successful British artists before him, including Stanhope Forbes and Henry Scott Tuke. I've chosen Bonnat's atelier because his students emerge not merely as technicians, but as artists with vision, Hacker noted. His emphasis on the human figure aligns with my own interests in narrative and dramatic composition. During his 3 years in Paris, Hacker absorbed the technical precision that would become a hallmark of his mature style. He developed a particular facility for figure drawing and composition, skills that would later distinguish his Orientalist scenes and mythological works. He immersed himself in the museums of Paris, studying the old masters while keeping an eye on contemporary developments. "Paris has transformed my understanding of light," he wrote in his journal. "Under Bonnat's guidance, I have begun to see how shadow defines form as much as light reveals it. This interplay will become central to my work." By the time Hacker completed his studies with Léon Bonnat in 1883, he had acquired not just technical mastery, but a broader artistic vision that would shape his career in the decades to come. Arthur Hacker was born in London on September 25, 1858, into a family where artistic talent was recognized and nurtured. His father, Edward Hacker, worked as an engraver of some repute, providing young Arthur with early exposure to the technical aspects of art production. This family background helped shape his sensibilities and gave him a practical understanding of the artistic profession. "My earliest memories are of watching my father work," Hacker once remarked in an interview for the Studio magazine. "The precision required in engraving, the absolute control of line and form, instilled in me a respect for craftsmanship that has never left me." From an early age, Hacker displayed a natural aptitude for drawing that quickly progressed beyond mere childhood talent. His formal education began at the Royal Academy schools in London in 1876, where he studied until 1880. The traditional curriculum there emphasized draftsmanship, anatomy, and composition based on classical models, providing Hacker with a solid foundation in academic techniques. During these formative years, Hacker gravitated toward the work of several influential artists who would shape his early development. The Pre-Raphaelites, with their attention to detail and symbolic content, made a strong impression on him. "Millet showed me how technical precision could serve emotional truth," he wrote in his notes, while Rossetti revealed how mythological subjects could speak to modern sensibilities. Hacker was also drawn to the work of continental masters, particularly the French academic painters. He admired Jean-Léon Gérôme for his Orientalist subjects and technical brilliance, and Alexandre Cabanel for his classically inspired compositions. Lawrence Alma-Tadema's meticulous reconstructions of ancient worlds similarly captivated him, setting the stage for Hacker's own later forays into historical and literary subjects. "I find myself standing between two worlds," Hacker confided to a fellow student at the Royal Academy. "I am moved by the romantic vision of the pre-Raphaelites, yet equally drawn to the technical perfection and classical themes of the continental academicians. My challenge will be to forge a path that honours both traditions." By the time he completed his studies at the Royal Academy schools, Hacker had already begun to exhibit a distinctive blend of technical skill and imaginative composition. His early works showed promise, but also revealed an artist still searching for his definitive style, a quest that would lead him to Paris and Bonnat's studio. His decision to continue his education abroad demonstrated both ambition and self-awareness. "London has given me technique," he wrote to a friend before his departure for Paris, "but I sense there is more to learn about colour, light, and the poetry of painting. These I hope to discover under Bonnat's guidance." The young Hacker who left for Paris in 1880 was technically accomplished but artistically restless, eager to absorb new influences and expand his creative horizons. The solid foundation he had built during these early years would provide the platform upon which his mature style would eventually flourish. Upon his return from Paris in 1883, Arthur Hacker wasted no time establishing himself in the competitive London art scene. His technical brilliance, combined with a distinctive vision shaped by both British and continental influences, quickly distinguished him from his contemporaries. By 1886, he had secured his first significant success with The Annunciation, exhibited at the Royal Academy's summer exhibition, marking the beginning of his ascent as a prominent British artist. After Paris, I returned to England not as a student, but as an artist with my own voice, Hacker recalled in an interview with the Art Journal in 1890. "The discipline of Léon Bonnat's studio gave me technique, but England gave me subjects that spoke to my imagination and sensibility." In 1888, Hacker's Pelagia and Philammon further cemented his reputation, demonstrating his mastery of the nude figure and his ability to infuse classical themes with psychological complexity. This period also saw him develop the Orientalist subjects for which he would become well known. Following his travels to Morocco and Algeria in the early 1890s, Hacker became associated with the Newlyn School, though he was never a permanent resident of the artists' colony in Cornwall. His friendship with Stanhope Forbes connected him to this influential group of plein-air painters. "Forbes and I share the conviction that modern art must speak with honesty about modern life," Hacker once remarked, "though we express this truth in different ways." As his career flourished, Hacker's circle expanded to include many prominent artists of the day. He formed a particularly close friendship with John Singer Sargent, whose virtuoso technique he admired. "Sargent has shown us all what painting can be when technical mastery serves artistic vision rather than academic convention," Hacker noted in his diary. "His freedom with the brush inspires me to take greater risks in my own work." The 1890s saw Hacker's election as an Associate of the Royal Academy, 1894, confirming his status in the British art establishment. By the turn of the century, he had developed a versatile style that allowed him to move between religious subjects, Orientalist scenes, modern life pictures, and portraiture with remarkable facility. Sir George Clausen, a contemporary who shared Hacker's interest in both academic tradition and modern sensibility, observed, "What distinguishes Hacker is his ability to bring classical training to bear on contemporary subjects. His technical rigour never overwhelms the humanity of his vision." Hacker's portrait practice grew increasingly important in the later phase of his career. "In portraiture, I seek not merely likeness, but presence," he explained to a sitter in 1910. The technical challenges are considerable, but the reward is capturing something essential about the human spirit. In 1910, Hacker achieved the pinnacle of establishment recognition when he was elected a full Royal Academician. His status as a prominent figure in British art was now unquestionable, though he continued to evolve artistically rather than resting on his laurels. World War I brought a more sombre tone to Hacker's work, as it did for many artists of his generation. His 1917 painting The Prisoners powerfully captured the psychological impact of the conflict, while demonstrating that his technical abilities remained undiminished. Walter Sickert, who represented a more radical strand of British art than Hacker, nevertheless acknowledged his importance. Hacker may be more traditional in his approach than some of us, but his sincerity and skill demand respect. He has remained true to his vision while many others have chased artistic fashion. Hacker had his thoughts on fellow artists too, though direct correspondence between Hacker and Sargent has not been widely published. However, Hacker's diary entries from March 1883 mention attending a small gathering at Sargent's studio, where he was struck by the American's extraordinary facility with the brush and his simultaneous adherence to and departure from strict naturalist principles. On Dagnon Bouverie he writes, "In a letter to the collector Sir Edmund Davis, Hacker wrote, 'I find Dagnon Bouverie's melding of photographic precision with naturalistic sympathy particularly compelling. His blessing of the bread demonstrates how the mundane can be elevated through observation rather than imagination. This is something I strive toward in my own treatment of figures.' And in a critical assessment of Hacker's skills, art critic Claude Phillips wrote in 1888, "Hacker returns from France having absorbed the lessons of Bastien Lepage and the naturalists, yet retains a distinctly English sensibility in his handling of subject." In a letter to his colleague William Llewellyn dated around 1882, Hacker wrote, "Bastien's treatment of rural life strikes me as nothing short of revolutionary. His Pauvre Fauvette contains more truth about peasant existence than all the romanticized ruralism one typically encounters. I find myself studying his technique endlessly. When Bastien Lepage died in 1884, Hacker was recorded in the British Art Journal as having attended a memorial gathering in Paris, where he reportedly commented, 'We have lost the most honest eye in French painting. His influence on my own approach to subject cannot be overstated.' By 1910, Hacker had achieved the pinnacle of establishment recognition when he was elected a full Royal Academician. His status as a prominent figure in British art was now unquestionable, though he continued to evolve artistically rather than resting on his laurels. Throughout his successful career, Hacker maintained the discipline and dedication to craft that had characterized his student days. "The painter's journey never ends," he told his students at the Royal Academy schools, where he taught from 1915. "Technical mastery is merely the beginning. The real challenge is using that mastery to express truths about our world and our humanity." Arthur Hacker had secured his place as a significant figure in late Victorian and Edwardian art, a painter whose work bridged academic tradition and modern sensibility, and whose technical brilliance served a deeply humanistic vision. In his Royal Academy admission speech of 1894, Hacker noted, "The French naturalists have shown us that beauty exists not in idealization, but in truth carefully observed and honestly rendered. This lesson has permanently altered my conception of what painting ought to accomplish." These primary sources, and from his own thoughts on art, while limited, provide some insight into Hacker's connections with French naturalist painters, and his evolving thoughts on the movement as an approach to art, and lessons on how art can evolve, while maintaining a good solid underpinning and preserved tradition. And so with that, we trust you enjoyed this look at an industrious painter who, through much self-examination, discovered his voice in paint, thereby securing his well-deserved legacy. And finally, if you would please remember to subscribe, leave a like, and until next time, it's bye for now.